I'm going to come out with another explosive revelation. This time around, we are going to bring a linkage to the Khalistani movement, the terrorist organizations that are spreading mayhem across the globe, and the Leicester violence that had taken place against Hindus, and the desecration of the Hindu temples and the attacks on the Hindus that took place in 2022. We are talking about an individual by the name of Majid Freeman. He is an Islamist fundamentalist. He was the one who instigated the Muslims in Leicester to attack the Hindu temples, to attack the Hindus living in the area. He then later on met the mayor of Leicester and spread more misinformation about Hindu and spread false information about Hindutva, thereby creating more mayhem and more commotion about Hindu phobia. I am going to give you more examples of what Majid Freeman has been up to for the past several decades. In 2013, Majid Freeman was part of Aid for Syria charity, which was later on exposed for its fundamentalist Islamist nature. In fact, Majid Freeman in the past, around 2013, had also asked for quote-unquote dua or prayers for a British ISIS terrorist. Now, there is an ISIS link involved with Majid Freeman's history. He has asked for prayers for a terrorist, British terrorist, ISIS terrorist, who was charged with a Syrian terror plot. He has posted a video that essentially says that ISIS was a reasonable response to the Western policy, and said that this brother, who is the ISIS British terrorist by the name of Iftikhar Jaman, has hit the nail on the head. In fact, Majid Freeman, according to a Telegraph report, had also expressed support for Al-Qaeda terrorists, calling them Shaheed. And he said that Al-Aqsa would be conquered by jihad. He expressed sympathy and support to the Al-Qaeda cleric who incited terrorist acts against non-Muslims. He encouraged European Muslims to do jihad in Syria. He has promoted tributes to the late Al-Qaeda terrorist Anwar al-Awlaki on his Twitter and Facebook accounts. And there is also a linkage of the parent organization to which Majid Freeman belongs to, which is IHH, which was the quote-unquote humanitarian organization that was providing relief to the war-torn, to the terror-torn Syria, also has a PFI organization link. Now, PFI, which is a terrorist organization in India, works explicitly against Hindus to spread Hindu phobia. I am going to open up this discussion and bring to the focus about Majid Freeman, the ISIS link, the ISI proxies that are working in collusion to spread anti-India, anti-Hindu propaganda, whether it is by the Khalistani terrorist attacks that are taking place across the world, or for that matter the Islamist fundamentalists who are breaking down our temples and killing Hindus in all parts of the world. In fact, Majid Freeman has also come out in support of the violent protests that have been initiated in 2022 December in Australia, where swords and sticks were brandished by these Khalistani elements to attack Hindus. I am going to open up this discussion. Let's get in Joyita Basu on the telecast with us. Joyita, would it be far-fetched to investigate into the matter and come to the conclusion that this Majid Freeman, who is an Islamist fundamentalist, who instigated Muslims by spreading fake news about Hindus, that spread terror, that spread mayhem, that spread violence against Hindus and Hindu temples, is also perhaps working in collusion with these Khalistani elements to spread this violence that is taking place all over?
Megha, there is no doubt about it, as your investigation also shows that there is a link. And even otherwise, if you even a common, just you go to Twitter and you find out there are so many photographs of these Khalistanis and the Islamists. They are working hand in hand, and I personally saw one photo where one of these Khalistani radicals, they are having a function, and the Pakistan High Commissioner to England is present in that function. So, these connections are not even hidden. They are out there on social media, from photographs, from tweets, from Facebook posts. It's pretty obvious that all of them, and they're very open about it. They don't even try to hide their connection. If you remember that attack that happened on the Indian High Commission a couple of years back on the 15th of August, remember who were present there? This was particularly led by a friend of Imran Khan. Now, these were all Islamists, and these were all part of the basically ISI's project in London. And along with them, who all were present? The Khalistanis. They were not taking the lead in the attack on that day in particular, which was being led by the Islamists, but the Khalistanis were there, out there in full force. So, when you are looking at them, they are all working together hand in glove for, and this is all part of what ISI started at their, the K project, the Kashmir, the two Ks, Kashmir and Khalistan. These are the two projects of the ISI, and even they are talking about, now Pakistan says we don't have money, but that project, a lot of funding is coming into this Khalistanis from the rich Canadians and the UK, also from the particular diaspora. So, a lot of money is coming in. Look at the way, Justin Trudeau's ministers and friends, they are tweeting on behalf of these Khalistanis.
Okay, all right. Major Leke Subhat. So, amidst this linkages that we are drawing and this very complicated, complex, well thought out web of the Islamist fundamentalists who are then being funded and trained by ISIS, by ISI, there is a PFI link, there is an Al-Qaeda link to this Majid Freeman, and he goes on to support the Khalistani movement. Is this just verbal support? Is this just social media support? Or then are the perpetrators of crimes and hate and this is Hindu phobia that is being spread, or this Khalistani movement that is being perpetuated, the masters and the master plot is the same?
Very correct. Megha, this is a very well thought out strategy of Islam, basically of ISI. This is what they are doing. Islamic fundamentalists and Khalistan, this fundamentalist, they are joining them. The funds are all coming from ISI. Now, the K2 plan which been spoken is nothing, this only Khalistan and basically Kashmir. Now, as far as the Kashmir is concerned, that is totally out now. They know it that the insurgency or militancy is in the last stage. There are less than 50 terrorists which are left. Leadership of Lashkar-e-Toba, Jaise Muhammad, Hizbul Mujahideen is completely wiped off. You find that district development council, panchayat election has taken place, grassroots level democracy, and now there will be a delimitation process over, there will be election and then statehood. So they shifted now focus to Punjab, and this is what is very challenging, and this is all done by ISI, and they are now joining the Islamic fundamentalists and also the Khalistani, this commandos and Khalistani sympathizer. And now this jointly is being done in Punjab. The focus is in Punjab. Lot of money is coming through Hawala, and though it is coming through trickle, so that you do not doubt it. Lot of your weapons are coming through drones, drugs are coming, weapon, ammunition is coming. Lot of sympathizer has become over a period of time. Almost last 2 years, you'll find lot of overground workers, and also sleeper cell has come in Punjab. And this is a cause of concern as far as India is concerned. There is a strong collusion of Islamic fundamentalists and basically Khalistani sympathizers, which we must look at.
Yes, Adit Kothari. Now, when an individual, a fundamentalist like Majid Freeman ends up getting a meeting with the mayor of Leicester right after the attack on Hindus, does it not increase their motivation to spread more mayhem? Does it also not show that the UK government or the Leicester government and the mayor are being persuaded, being swayed with the narrative that is being initiated, whether it is Islamist fundamentalists or for that matter the Khalistani movement?
Megha, this was... Sorry, go on.
The question is to you.
This is for Adit Kothari.
Okay,
please.
Okay. So Megha, just to remind you and your viewers, when this Leicester saga essentially played out, the Henry Jackson Society published a report, soon after, a couple of weeks later, and they pointed out, how the polity of Leicester, which is a cesspool for the Islamists, being in bed with the Labour Party there, were essentially playing in conjunction to emanate what would be called as false narratives. What is more shocking is how the media essentially used Majid Freeman and provided him a platform to broadcast that kind of disinformation and the false narratives. And I'm talking about responsible media organizations like the BBC, like the Guardian, who essentially became a voice for Majid Freeman to spread all hate and false information. This is not the first time that this is come into the foray. In the UK, you have the Islamists, you have the Khalistanis, you have the dismantling global Hindutva gang, all working in conjunction, and they are completely supported by the left-leaning intelligentsia within the academia and the media circles, and that is what our fight in the UK is. So we are, as part of the British Indian diaspora, we're trying to.
The media agencies gave Majid Freeman and fundamentalists like him the platform who was spreading misinformation. But what about the Leicester mayor, when he is going about holding meetings and just mimicking and repeating what Majid Freeman says, that quote unquote Hindutva is the cause of chaos in Leicester?
What's playing out in Leicester is simple electoral politics, Megha. At the end of the day, the Muslims of Leicester will vote as a consolidated vote bank, while the other population, which is the non-Muslim population, essentially vote divided. Let's take the British Indian diaspora. The people who work within the public services will essentially vote for the Labour Party. The people who work within financial services or run their own businesses would either vote for the Lib Dem or the Conservative government. And that is what the Labour government or the Labour Party essentially thrives on. It's essential electoral politics and vote bank politics that we get to see. And this is just not in Leicester. Even when you see, people like Jack Straw, his documentary, or rather, what he presented in the Modi hit job documentary, he was just essentially, applying to his own constituency, and that is what you will get to see across the board in the UK.
Okay, Mr. General P.K. Sehgal, then how do we break this downward spiral? And it's cyclical because the politicians want to woo a group of vote bank, which is the Islamist fundamentalists. How did it become to be so strong in the first place, and how do we break this cycle?
It's very interesting to see that what Majid Freeman is doing. Apparently the British government, the Scotland Yard, the British intelligence, everybody is aware of what he's been doing. Despite that, they've not been acting against him. They are aware of his links with ISI, they are aware of his links with ISIS, and they are aware of what he is doing against Hindutva. It is unfortunately being supported and abetted by the British government. India is now pretty strong, its influential leadership is very strong, and we have the capability to arm twist the Britishers. And it is high time that we do that. Not only as far as UK is concerned, we got to do the same thing as far as other countries are concerned, whether it's America or it's Canada or it's France or it's Italy or it's Australia. Unless and until we do that, India is a country that is beginning to become extremely influential. We have the second largest economy in the world today, and we have the fastest growing economy. And India has the biggest market available in the world today. Everybody is wooing India, and unless India acts very, very strongly and tells them that they got to pick up which side of the bread to butter. And if they pick up the wrong side, well, they have to pay the price.
Yeah.
If you notice, the moment we remove the barricades outside the British High Commission's residence, etc., or British High Commissioners, immediately the Scotland Yard, etc., were deployed, and the next day, that sort of a mayhem did not take place against the Indian embassy in London. So it's absolutely important. A very clear message must be sent. We are a very strong nation today, with a very strong, decisive government, strong security forces, strong intelligence sharing. Pakistan, ISI, ISIS, all put together cannot do a major mischief to India.
Okay, Joyita, I'm going to come to you again. Now, if you say that, and what Major General Sehgal is essentially saying is that if India puts pressure, the British government succumbs. So when we remove the barricades outside the High Commissioner's office the British High Commissioner's office in Delhi, the Scotland Yard and the Metropolitan Police are gathered over there, barricades are put, and these Khalistani protesters are stopped from spreading violence at the Indian High Commission in London. And can we then imagine that the MI5, MI6, Scotland Yard, Metropolitan Police are so incapable and incompetent that they could not find the linkages between Majid Freeman and the misinformation that he was spreading in Leicester against Hindus, and no action was taken? Forget about taking any action, he has not been arrested, he has been given a meeting and he's given a platform on the international media platforms, whether it is BBC, Guardian, New York Times and so on and so forth. The mayor meets him, and something similar is taking place with the Khalistani movement. The Khalistanis are being given a platform. The Khalistanis meet the Pakistani High Commissioner and no eyebrows are raised, and the very few days later they spread this violence, and none of them is arrested, none of them are put behind bars.
Megha, first of all, let's not forget who the mayor of London is. His name is Sadiq Khan. He is basically a Pakistani, and so you know, I'm certain some people, especially those who live in the UK, they will do some probing in terms of how exactly, what exactly is the relationship of this particular mayor with, I mean, what kind of instructions have gone to the London Metropolitan Police. Because when you are looking at the Metropolitan Police, there is a particular division inside the Metropolitan Police that provides protection to all the embassies and the foreign missions, whichever is there in London. And this, as I said, Metropolitan Police reports directly to the mayor. So obviously, we can, by association, we can hold the mayor guilty of allowing this situation to take place. Again, I am going to mention what happened in that earlier attack. London police, the Metropolitan Police did not lift a finger, okay, to protect the embassy, to protect the people, or to take action after what happened. Again, the same at that time also, a finger of this accusation had been pointed at Sadiq Khan, who is actually, who is a Pakistani, simple as that. So the thing is, you see, now the problem I think that is happening in England is that the UK, a lot of demographic change is taking place. In certain areas, there are areas in the UK that, I mean, where the so-called minority of a particular community is more than 50%, and they have a lot of these things are having a fallout on the law and order system, on the local police. And apart from that, what has also happened, from what I am hearing, there is a funds cut of the police, as a result of which I think what they are doing in terms of prioritizing security, who is going to get security, who is not going to get security, all right, and I think India is not their priority. But the fact of the matter is that if India is not their priority, fine, the free trade agreement with the UK is also not our priority.
Fair enough, fair enough. Adit, I am going to come to you. Now, important questions raised. Also, there are not just senators and members of the parliament and the mayors who are backing this Khalistani movement very openly. There are also senators from America, there are also members of the parliament from Canada, there are a number of them from Australia who call this Khalistani violent protests to be quote unquote peaceful marches, and they say that people have the freedom to hold peaceful marches. Now, why is there such a misunderstanding about what Khalistani does versus what Khalistani is being portrayed as?
I think the misunderstanding is, you know, particularly some of it is even our fault. When I say our fault, I'm talking about the government of India's intervention in this particular matter. We've not raised the stakes. We've not ensured that the diplomatic channels can ensure that there is accountability. And this government has taken proactive measures, not to say the least. You know, very recently, Tim Barrow, who's the national security advisor, had met Ajit Doval in London on the 6th of February. And I understand that, you know, there is quite a candid discussion on the Khalistani issue. Even when, you know, Liz Truss, as soon as she landed in October of 2022 in India, you know, the Khalsa TV, which was a propaganda channel calling for open violence against the Hindus, was essentially banned and taken off the air by the regulatory authority Ofcom. But when it comes down to the pure reciprocity, I think that is where I think the Indian counter narrative is slightly weak. You know, the US, the Canada, and the UK and Australia have, for the last 30-40 years, harbored these Khalistani and Islamist and Kashmiri separatists in their land in the garb of, human rights. We have not, given them a retaliation. Cascadia, Western Canada, British Columbia, Quebec, these are states which want to break away from Canada. And, there is a new Africa movement happening in the USA. And we've essentially failed to galvanize and, take the stakes higher for these governments, these so-called friends of the Indian government, who are essentially, बगल में चूरा और बात ज़बान में राम और बगल में चूरा लेके घूमते. So that we've essentially failed to take the stakes higher for them. Very recently there was a report which was published by William Shawcroft, which is called the Prevent Report, which looks at counter-terrorism measures in the UK. And they have clearly warned that the pro-Khalistani groups in the UK are emanating a lot of false narratives against the state of India, and also calling for violence. And the same goes for the Islamists in the UK as well. So if you are going to be growing monsters in your backyard, or if you're going to be growing snakes in your backyard, they will eventually come and bite you, was the moral of the story out of that particular report.
Major General A.K. Subhash, I'm going to get your response. And how should the crackdown happen? How can we push the UK government to work with the Indian government to crack down on these terrorist elements?
Megha, we are the 4th largest military and 5th largest economy in the world. We have already taken over from over Britain, and we will be soon taking over Japan and Germany. The issue is we have a might. Today the British is not part of European Union. They are come out of it. They want a free trade agreement. Today Britain needs us more than India needs Britain. We must put an economic pressure on them. How can you allow a separatist to come and vandalize our High Commission office? So this is what it is. For example, what we did, we now have removed the security barricade from the High Commission of Britain from in Delhi. Immediately there was a reaction of them. Why don't we give the same platform to IRA when they are giving to this Kashmiri separatists and the Khalistani force? So tit for tat, jaise ko taisa, that is the only language which is understood in the international fora. Same way when Anthony Albanese, the Prime Minister of Australia, came to India, Prime Minister Modi has told him no uncertain terms. The people who are sort of vandalizing Hindu temple in Australia are the Australian citizen. It is your responsibility to take action against that. So I think we have been very soft on these. We must know what are their fault lines.
Are we soft on it? Would we be able to muster up enough pressure on the government? Major General P.K. Sehgal, like Adit said, that this political network, this lobbying is so deeply entrenched and for decades together that it would perhaps not be easy to crack down on this Khalistani Islamist ISI nexus in the get-go. How can we keep chipping away to ensure our voice is heard and the right thing happens?
As I said, we've just for 30 years we've been too much of a gentleman. We've been too very soft state. Unfortunately, they've taken advantage of the fact that India was a soft state and India did not protest very strongly. Today we are very strong and we can arm twist each of these nations. And it is high time they understand that even in Asia Pacific, India, the Quad etc. has no meaning at all. In Indo-Pacific, American strategy, the British strategy, the Western strategy completely collapses should India not side with them. Similarly, economically, India is very resilient today. And India ought to exercise its political clout, its economic clout, and its growing military clout, and its strategic clout in a very significant manner. And I am very certain, given the fact that we have a very strong Prime Minister and we have an equally strong External Affairs Minister who does not, in any case, he speaks absolutely frankly and forthrightly and does not mince his words.
Okay.
It is time that we arm to Britishers, like they need us. Their economic survivability is contingent to India coming to their aid.
Okay,
FTA is in their interest, not in India's interest.
Can we go about creating this pressure, strip United Kingdom of the FTA that it has been wanting and vying for from India? There were, like I said, a lot of economic channels by way of the Commerce Minister, by way of the Foreign Minister, they all have been sending us feelers, but we need to be steadfast in what we have been demanding, and we will not budge an inch until and unless our conditions are met. That would be one of the strongest ways in putting forth our protest and wanting action in strong, important, fervent action from the UK government, irrespective of which biases and lobbies and fundings that come from wherever, they will have to take action and they will have to stand by the just and the right things. I thank all my panelists for joining me on the telecast. Stay tuned on NewsX, because this is Londonistan Files. We have spoken about the Pakistani High Commission ISI link with the Khalistanis. We have spoken about how there has been a link that has been initiated from the ISIS, Al-Qaeda fundamentalist with the Khalistani movement. We have also spoken about how the majority of the Sikh community that is peaceful, that does not want the Khalistani secessionist agenda to exist, has been terrorized, has been attacked yesterday itself in West London, and what should be the action that needs to be taken by the UK government to crack down on all this mischief and attacks on the Indian diaspora. I take a quick short break. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.